How are y'all doing? Welcome to the Bishop MTG channel. Once again, this is Dakota with another deck tech. Have you ever wanted just to create big, fast creatures and not have to worry about counter spells or card removal or card filtering? Well, welcome to the wonderful life of Gruul. Today's deck tech is going to be of Savage Ventmaw. Savage Ventmaw is a 4/4 dragon for 4 colorless, 1 red and 1 green mana. Has flying and has ability. Whenever Savage Ventmaw attacks, add 3 red and 3 green to your mana pool. Until end of turn, that mana doesn't empty from your mana pool as steps and phases end. He creates fast mana which we can easily ramp into bigger creatures for massive pump spells. So let's first go over the land package. We run 17 lands in this deck. We have 10 basic forests, 3 basic mountains, a Gruul Guildgate, Rugged Highlands, Evolving Wilds, and a Terramorphic Expanse. It's a mostly green deck, but we have some red in this deck for some flair. But let's go over some very important mana dorks. First we have Llanowar Elves. It's a 1/1 elf druid for 1 green, and taps to add 1 green to your mana pool. Next we have Elvish Mystic. 1/1 elf druid for 1 green, tap to add 1 green to your mana pool. Got Orcish Lumberjack, a 1/1 orc for 1 red mana. Tap to sacrifice a forest, add 3 mana of any combination of red and or green to your mana pool. And we got Whisperer of the Wilds, 0/2 human shaman for 1 colorless and a green. Tap to add 1 green to your mana pool. Has ferocious, tap to add double green to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if your creature you control is power 4 or greater. Then we have Priest of Titania. Priest of Titania is a 1/1 elf druid for 1 colorless and 1 green. Tap to add 1 green to your mana pool for each elf on the battlefield. We really want to get out Ventmaw as soon as possible. We can consistently get him out on turn 4 with some of this ramp package. You know, Orcish Lumberjack is easily our best ramp card. We just have to sacrifice the force and get 3 mana. That can consistently get our Ventmaw on turn 3 or 4. But our Priest of Titania is a close second. Can create some decent mana. We do have 8 elves in the deck, so that can usually get it to 2, maybe even 3 mana. Next, we have 2 important cards to speed up the game. We have Bloodlust Inciter. It's a 1/1 human warrior for 1 red. Tap to target creature, gains haste until end of turn. And we have Generator Servant, 2/1 elemental for 1 colorless and a red. Tap, sacrifice him, add 2 to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. We really want Ventmaw attacking as soon as possible. We can start playing our fatties really quickly. So there's no way faster than giving him haste. Bloodlust, he's a little bit more consistent since you can't only give him, but also you can give other fatties haste. But Generator Servant does give some ramp, so we can get Ventmaw out quicker. Next, we do have a little package of some search cards. So first, we do have Farhaven Elves. Farhaven Elves is a 1/1 elf druid for 2 colorless and a green. When Farhaven Elves enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. If you do, shuffle your library. Next, we do have Wood Elves. Wood Elves is a 1/1 elf scout for 2 colorless and 1 green. When Wood Elves enters the battlefield, search your library for a forest card, put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And also, we cannot forget the Fierce Empath. Fierce Empath is a 1/1 elf for 2 colorless and a green. When he enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 6 or greater. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. Farhaven Elves and Wood Elves, they're actually pretty good. They help with our fixing a bit, and also they get more force so we can sacrifice to the Orcish Lumberjack. Fierce Empath is probably way better than them since we do get to look up for one of our fatties so we can play them. Talking about fatties, let's finally go over them. So the first one that we do have is a Pathbreaker Wurm. Pathbreaker Wurm is a 6/4 worm for 4 colorless and double green, and has Soul Bond. And as long as Pathbreaker Wurm is paired with another creature, both creatures have trample. So When either Pathbreaker Wurm or that other creature that's soul bonded with enters the battlefield, both of them are paired for as long as both of them are on the battlefield. Next we have Rampaging Hippo. It's a 5/6 Hippo for 4 colorless in double green. He has Trample and Cycling for 2. So we can pay 2 colorless mana, discard a card, and draw a card. Or we discard the Rampaging Hippo. Next we have Elvish Aberration. It's a 4/5 Elf Mutant for 5 colorless and a green. Tap to add 3 green to your mana pool. Then it has Force Cycling for 2. We can pay 2, discard this card, search your library for a force card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Next we have Eldrazi Devastator. It's a 8/9 Eldrazi for 8 colorless mana with Trample. Last but not least we have Ulamog's Crusher. 8/8 Eldrazi for 8 colorless and has Annihilator 2. So whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. Ulamog's Crusher attacks each turn if able. So they all do very specific things. Wurm, he lets us get some more damage through by getting that Soul Bond and Trample activated. Hippo, he does let us filter a bit, and also he is a pretty big fatty. Aberration, he's pretty versatile. He can be a big body that we can start swinging in. We can ramp a bit in case we need a little bit more ramp for our Devastator or Crusher. But in case he does die, we can, not in case he dies, in case Ventmaw dies, can ramp him to recast him again. Most importantly, we do have the 2 Eldrazi's. Devastator, he's just a big trampler, and then Crusher is pretty much the best creature in the format. There's nothing better than a big body with removal on it. So let's go over half the reason I even play this deck. So first we have Soulbright Flamekin. It's a 2/1 Elemental Shaman for 1 colorless and a red. Pay 2 mana and target creature gets Trample until end of turn. If this is the 3rd time this ability has resolved this turn, you may add 8 red mana to your mana pool. Next we have Valakut Invoker. It's a 2/3 Human Shaman for 2 colorless and a red. You can pay 8 colorless mana, and Valakut Invoker deals 3 damage to target creature and or player. Not and or player. Next we have Lavafume Invoker, 2/2 Goblin Shaman for 2 colorless and a red. Pay 8 mana and creatures you control get +3/+0 until end of turn. Then probably our best one, Wildheart Invoker. Wildheart Invoker is a 4/3 Elf Shaman for 2 colorless and double green. You can pay 8 mana, target creature gets +5/+5 and trample until end of turn. So the Invokers, they really bring this deck to another level. With Ventmaw's mana ability, we get a lot of mana from it, and sometimes we just need to use that mana and sink it into something other than fatties. And the Invokers fill up that spot perfectly. So the Flamekin, first of all, it does a few things really well. One, it can get tramples to some of our creatures pretty consistently, but most importantly is once we do that ability 3 times, so we can use all that mana that we get from Ventmaw, pump it into it, and we get 8 mana. And that is the perfect amount to use any of our Invoker's abilities. So the first Invoker is Valakut. So it basically gets a Lightning Bolt a creature or player. We usually do it for removal. There's a blocker that's getting in our way, or we need to get just a tiny bit more damage through. Valakut really lets us do that. Lavafume, he's perfect for just a little bit more pump, just to push through some more damage, maybe swing with some more creatures. Then Wildheart, he makes one of our mana dorks into a fatty. So we have a few enchantments, let's go over them. First we have Rancor, 1 green for an enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and trample. When it enters the graveyard from battlefield, return it to your hand. Dragon Fangs is a 1 colorless, 1 green enchant creature. Gets +1/+1 and trample, and when a creature with a converted mana cost 6 or greater enters the battlefield, we may turn Dragon Fangs enchanted on it from our graveyard. Cartouche of Strength is a 2 colorless and 1 green enchantment aura Cartouche. Can enchant a creature we control. When it enters the battlefield, we may fight target creature an opponent controls, and that is the enchanted creature that fights. So the enchanted creature also gets +1/+1 and trample. Last but not least is Runes of the Deus. Runes of the Deus is 4 colorless and 1 red or green hybrid mana. Gets an enchanted creature. So long as the enchanted creature is red, it gets +1/+1 and double strike. So long as the enchanted creature is green, it gets +1/+1 and trample. So we need to give a bunch of our creatures trample just because most of our creatures are big. And we want to be consistent with it. Can't be more consistent than Rancor or Dragon's Fang. Because once they are removed, or that creature is removed, we gotta keep on playing them. Gotta keep on playing them. Not to mention Cartouche. Cartouche is very important, just because it's removal on an enchantment. But probably our most important enchantment is Runes of Deus. He makes Ventmaw a nightmare, making it a 6/6 double strike trampling flying that also adds that mana. That's incredible. We can't be an all-offensive deck. We do need to protect ourselves just a bit. So let's go over a few removal spells and also some stall effects so we can eventually swing in with our baddies. First, we do have Prey Upon. Prey Upon is 1 green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So each deals damage equal to its power to each other. Then we have Pit Fight. Pit Fight is 1 colorless and a hybrid of red or green. For an instant, target creature you control fights another target creature. So that can be either creature we control or creature our opponents control. Then last but not least, we do have Pounce for 1 colorless and a green. It's an instant. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So we have 3 spells here. And most of the times people would avoid them. But honestly, they are very solid. They're pretty much straight up removal. Since most of the time we're going to be playing some big creatures, if we do this fight mechanic, it just pretty much says kill target creature. And you might say, well, why don't you run some burn in this deck? Well, the burn in con for red, some of it is really powerful, but most of it isn't big enough to really remove the huge creatures. So our next stuff that we have is some fog and stall effects. And they're pretty important because if we're facing some decks that go wide, we need a way to halt them. So first we have Fog. Fog is a 1 green instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Next we have Haze of Pollen. 1 colorless and a green for an instant. Prevent all combat that would be dealt this turn, and then has cycling for 3. Next we have Defend the Hearth. For 1 colorless and a green, for an instant, prevent all combat damage should be dealt to players this turn. Then last but not least, Lull. 1 colorless and a green for an instant. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn. And the cycling in the old cards are a little bit weird. It says cycling for 2. You may pay 2 colorless and discard this card from your hand to a draw card. You may play this ability as an instant. Like I said, we're really weak against decks that do go wide, and you know these Fog's abilities do help. Having the 2 cycling abilities on Lull and Haze of Pollen's just it lets us get to other cards pretty quickly. Last but not least, we do have some miscellaneous cards. They're really just a little bit of filler, but also they do have some key roles. So the first one that we do have is Search for Tomorrow. Search for Tomorrow is a 2 colorless and 1 green for a sorcery. Has the ability search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Then has Suspend 2 for 1 green. Rather than casting this card for your hand, you may pay 1 green and exile 2 time counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. Next, we do have Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth is 1 colorless and 1 green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card. Put that card on the battlefield tab and shuffle your library.
Next, we have
Last but not least, we have Predator's Report. Predator's Report is 2 colorless and a green for an instant. You choose target creature you control. Gain life equal to that creature's power and toughness. So we do have some mana ramp and card filtering in Search for Tomorrow and Rampant Growth. Like I said, we do want to play our Savage Ventmaw on turn 4. Search for Tomorrow will usually be on turn 3, Rampant Growth turn 2, and I'll consistently get that on turn 4. And also lets us thin out our deck so we don't have to draw lands. And Predator's Report is extremely powerful. It can get us anywhere between 8 to 15 life. And that is really good. That is the deck, but let's have one last brief overview of what this deck does and how we win with it. First of all, we'll play all of our mana dorks in Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystics, Orcish Lumberjacks, or Priest of Titania, so we can play our Ventmaw on turn 4. Next, we do cast our Ventmaw, give it haste with maybe a Bloodlust Inciter, Generator Serve it, so we can attack with it. Then with that mana that we get from Ventmaw, we'll play some of our fatties, maybe one of our Eldrazi's, maybe a Hippo, Wurm, maybe that big elf. Then we eventually do pump up our creatures with one of our Invokers to give some real pressure to our opponents. And finally, if we're put into a sticky situation, we'll do some fog effects or we'll do one of our fight cards to remove them. But that is pretty much the whole deck for you. Thank you guys very much for watching this. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Anything would really help out with this channel. If you guys are interested in any other decks that I'm doing, if you have any questions about this deck, if you have